All right, I don't know if we have any Warriors fans out there, but if you're not a Warriors fan, you know that song means we just won a home game. So a lot of fun memories running through my head right now, and I'm very excited to be here today to talk about sports. I'm a huge sports fan and enthusiast. I just became a Valkyrie season ticket holder, so I was just getting excited about that in the last session. And I'm also a marketing enthusiast, so I spent some time agency side, and now I'm at Writer, which is a Gen AI platform for the enterprise, and we help a lot of marketing teams reinvent things with an AI-first mindset. So excited to be here to talk with our esteemed panelists that I get the honor to chat with today about sports, culture, and innovation. So I'll hand it over to them to introduce themselves.
Hi, I'm Heather Freeland. I'm the Chief Brand Officer at Adobe, and that means I oversee everything from all of our creative, brand partnerships, sports marketing, and the like. And I have been in the marketing business for a very long time, longer than I care to admit, working everything from agency side to leading marketing at Lyft and working at Meta for years.
Hello, my name is Shawn Raissi. It is weird to hear your own voice. My name is Shawn Raissi. I'm a Group Creative Director at 72andSunny. I currently work on the Adobe business with Heather here. And I feel like my career has been me kind of justifying to myself for all the sports and all the video games I watched and played as a kid. So I have a lot of experience in video game marketing, EA Sports and Xbox specifically. I've been fortunate enough to add short stories to the Star Wars universe, and now I get to work with Heather on a brand that has been near and dear to my heart since I was a teenager and decided I wanted to be creative all the time, every day, no matter what, on Adobe. Thanks for having me.
Amazing. Well, I think right now we can all say that sports, entertainment, and culture are more connected than ever, and brands are playing a massive role in driving that conversation. So with so many different touch points across live in-person events and digital media, social channels, Shawn, how are you helping brands reimagine that engagement strategy?
Yeah, it's interesting to think about sports as one of the final few mass live viewing events that we have left, gone are the days that we all watched the same episode of Lost at the exact same time. So when you think about that, and you think about these moments, the incredible moments that are being created, from a brand perspective, there's sort of two ways I think that generally brands show up. You either take advantage of that audience, that captive audience, and you deliver your message, and if that works, if you have a lot of money behind it, you want to be repetitive. But I think the brands that succeed the most are the ones that give to the sports culture, give to the moments, give us memories to hold on to in those moments. And that could be anything from telling stories about athletes, interacting with your brand that shines a different kind of light on them than you would typically see on the court or on the field, all the way to giving fans experiences and showing up as a fan and allowing them to interact with your brand in a way that they're really passionate about. So I think, showing up in those ways and connecting with fans, I think is really, really important for a brand to do when it comes to advertising around sports.
I think that's spot on, and I think that your point around making that personal touch is really key, because I think we all know at this point consumers demand a lot from brands, right? You can't just stand for your products or just put a logo and sponsor an event. They want to know what you stand for. And so Heather, I'm curious, in your partnership, how you think about brand storytelling to meet those demands of the consumers these days.
Yeah, no longer is it that we reach our customers through advertising alone, right? And I think that's on multiple levels. One, because it's harder and harder to get a captive audience, like you were saying, except on live sports. Like literally when we look at national buys, we only buy on live sports because that's the only place to get the audiences. But now people are demanding more relevance, more connection, more authenticity as a part of their life. So the advertising can't break through to serve the needs of driving that relevance like it once did. So we're doing a ton right now in terms of deep partnerships with sports leagues, with teams like the Warriors and the National Women's Soccer League, to use those as platforms, not just to reach our customers, but to engage with them and showcase our products and our values. So we're doing a lot more in terms of things like original content. We're doing fan activations where we can bring the kind of ethos of our brand to life, like we do a Warriors fan night every year where we
I've been there, very fun.
where we showcase a local artist and their artistic process, and then everyone has the t-shirt that that person designed. We have do a lot where we are working with the National Women's Soccer League to create original content, working with creators to focus on and profile their players and give them a platform. And so it's all in service of bringing what feels authentic to our brand and our products closer to our customers in the things that they care about. And so that's driven us to think in a whole new way about our marketing and going far beyond just an advertisement.
I love that. And how did you come up with the Women's Soccer League and diving into that partnership?
Yeah, so this was one that we started 2 years ago, right when it was really undergoing some pretty significant transformation, but also when women's sports was really starting to take off. I joke that it's like getting in on a unicorn investment in the Series A, right? Just in terms of the increase in viewership and fandom. But for us, it was a brand statement, and it was about saying, hey, we want to champion the up and comer. We want to champion, we focus a lot on talking about creativity for all, but that means truly all. And I think it's been a huge, powerful partnership for us because it doesn't just give us the access to connect with our customers in a new way, but it actually makes a statement about our brand to support women in that way. And so I think that has given us far more impact from the investment than otherwise. I have a 10-year-old son who's like a huge basketball fan, and it really struck me because like 3 or 4 years ago, he said to me, because we always have the Warriors or the Celtics on our house, like every game, and he's like, Mommy, why don't we ever watch the WNBA? And I was like, wow, like that hit me, and so I think it's the role that corporate America and brands can also play to drive societal change and supporting these leagues and these women and celebrating them just as much as we celebrate men.
Oh, I love that. Well, he can come to my house anytime, and we've got women's sports on all the time. So I love that.
We do watch the WNBA.
Okay, there we go. It is a movement, so people are catching on, which is fantastic. I think we're talking about culture and relevance. I think nothing's more culturally relevant than here in the Bay Area, AI. I know it's on the top of everybody's minds. And Heather, I know Adobe's really been at the forefront of creative-led AI, and I would love to hear maybe some of the things that you're seeing your customers adopt with AI and maybe some of the strengths or challenges they're facing.
Yeah, I mean, the pace of change and innovation right now is like nothing I've seen in my career, and I think as we look at this as marketers, I think it's particularly kind of affecting marketers on all aspects of the process. So everything from the creative process, and we're working new AI capabilities into all of our tools and products. We've launched our own models. Firefly, we launched a video model yesterday, which is super exciting. And that can really accelerate the creative process for brands. But then you think about it all the way through the entire marketing process, and it's helping us to scale even further. It's helping us to personalize even further. It's helping us to accelerate the speed to market and operate more in real time. And then it's helping us ultimately deliver much more personalized experiences at scale in ways that took a huge heavy lift before, now feel much more seamless. Now, it is the heavy lift right now is in change management and adopting the new technology and changing internal culture and ways of working to adapt to it. But it's been just a transformative moment in the industry, and certainly I feel it as a customer myself.
Absolutely. And Shawn, how do you integrate some of this AI into your processes?
Yeah, I once knew a tattoo artist that always said it's not the wand, it's the wizard. As we look at AI creatively, I think Heather touched on a lot of it. It's an incredible tool to help us scale our content. It's an incredible tool to help us prototype ideas, maybe see if it works before we actually go invest in it and go produce it. It also allows our creatives to go iterate much wider, to see and test ideas, to see if they actually work. I think for us, it is that kind of powerful tool, but it's not a replacement for human creativity.
No.
It is incredibly important to have the people who are the weird thinkers, are the craft monsters of the world, use these tools to expand their creative minds, expand their ability to make more stuff. But you still need the people to be the center of the creative ideas, because that's where you get the really true stories, the creative that maybe is off brief but still solves the problem. The weird thinkers and what we call the craft monsters.
It's funny, just to build on that, and we feel that very deeply, both in how we support our customers, but how my creative team works internally. And it's so interesting, the dynamic right there at this point in time. But what's fascinating is if you look back over centuries, people have always been afraid of new technologies kind of taking over the human role. And I think one of my favorite examples to give is when the printing press arrived on the scene, everyone was like, oh my gosh, creativity is dead, and then it bore the Renaissance, right? And I actually think what we're going to start to see now is just this incredible surge in creativity. I mean, look at all of our social channels. Anyone can be a creator now in ways that they never thought possible. I mean, I see the things my kids are building on, on Adobe Express or using Firefly, and it's mind-blowing to me what is possible. And so I actually think we're going to see, sparking on the craft monsters, and the creatives are going to just really increase exponentially what's possible and the ideas that are brought into the world.
Yeah, I think that's always been a part of the Adobe DNA. Like our relationship with Adobe goes back almost 7 years, and as we embark into this new phase of the relationship into the future, those themes of creativity for all, democratizing creativity, the belief that everyone is a creative, regardless of if you think you've reached that talent threshold or you have the craft of it all. Everyone has the ability to be creative, and now more than ever, these tools are allowing people to visualize those ideas, those dreams, and in a way that they never could before. It's always been in the Adobe DNA to encourage everyone to get as creative as possible.
I think that's spot on, and actually reminds me, I was speaking with Jeffrey Katzenberg, and he was talking about Little Mermaid, and they were hand painting all of the frames, and so they could actually only do 11 colors in Little Mermaid, but by the time that they had CGI for The Lion King, they can have hundreds. And so as you think about leveraging new technology, what that unlocks for the creative angles. So I love that, and I completely agree.
That's an interesting, and there's another story. I had a teacher in art school. His name was Steve Spaz Williams. He was the head of ILM and at the time. And Steven Spielberg visualized Jurassic Park as stop motion animation. So could you imagine that movie just it's stop motion animation with the Tyrannosaurus Rex running in the cell frames? But Spaz came to him and was like, I can actually make a running T-Rex all in CG. I can actually make this happen. And the second Spielberg saw that's how we're doing it from here on out. That's what the movie's going to look like. Fast forward to Terminator 2, The Abyss, all those things. It wasn't technology, taking over and changing. It was opening up the aperture so much wider for the ability, creating a whole industry out of it, creating more creatives out of it. So I think when you take that and extrapolate it to the future of AI and the relationship that it has with creativity, it's really just going to expand those horizons even wider, make us able, allow us to actualize all the crazy ideas we have in our head in an amazing way.
I think you touched on one of the key advantages of AI is the ability to iterate faster, get more versions, more personalization, right? How do you balance that with what we talked about previously, which is the authenticity of the human touch? Like, how do you have the checks and balances when you're releasing your creative to the wild?
I mean, I think it's the authenticity piece comes with goes hand in hand with the personalization piece, right? Of course, you have to get that right. But I think the more that you can deliver, like the way we like to think about it is how do you design the ultimate experience for someone, right? And what is the best possible experience they can have with your brand? And then layering on that, using the data and insight you have about them, creating an amazing experience, whether that's creatively or in person or what have you, and designing an amazing experience, and finding that way to connect with what they care about based on what you know about them. That is an amazing brand experience and incredibly authentic if you do it in the right way. And so I think that's the key, is bringing together in this moment, because of the insight we have about customers, we can deliver those amazing experiences in a way that just feels much more meaningful.
Yeah, I think spot on. And I guess in terms of, obviously of your products that are going out to brands and customers, like how do you help them with that change management of how to adopt the new features and functionality?
Yeah, it's a huge, it's something I'm dealing with day to day, but also our customers too. I think it's helping people see what's possible in the future and navigating, finding the best way to navigate it. So we're trying lots of different things internally. We're creating new roles that are all about incubation and testing out new technologies and then ultimately scaling. We're doing pilots across the org. It's interesting at Adobe, we call ourselves Customer Zero because my team is our customer as well, and so we get a chance to get our hands on these tools first while they're in alpha stage and test them out. But I think there's all the things you can do from pilots to new roles, but I think it's also preaching a growth mindset in your org that this is going to unlock greater ideas. This is going to help you iterate more. This is going to help you try new things out and help individuals see what's in it for them. And I think that's going to be those types of motions in terms of change management are just as, if not more important than bigger organizational or corporate marketing motions.
And I think it's incredibly important for the customer zero of it all to lead the way in that. But what I've also been impressed by is the community, the Adobe community, and how they educate each other on all these tools and how you see so much content being made out there. Every time a new innovation comes out, like I'm still waiting to see all the content that comes out of your most recent announcement of generative AI in video. It's really awesome to see the passion of the community come through and teach each other and push forward the limits of innovation.
Yeah, and I think that's spot on. The change management aspect is challenging, right? I think that every C-level executive that I talk to about AI, that's the first question, which is how are we going to drive this change in the business? And I was talking to somebody earlier this week, and one of the ways they're even thinking about that is putting it in performance reviews and making that a key part of success in the organization and elevating those who are really adopting it. So I agree, it takes a lot from the top down, but also to motivate the individual employees. Any
specific challenges that you face that you feel like you could give to the team in terms of lessons learned?
Yeah, it's interesting. I've actually developed kind of a 6-pronged framework for how I've looked at change in my organization, but there are a few that a lot of people don't typically think about. It is kind of focusing on individual and how you're motivating them. It is about work structure, having the right talent and skills, having the right technology. But for the other thing to think about too is we actually went through a whole brand redesign to make it easier to scale and work within all of these new tools and make it easier for someone who's not a creative within the organization to build a social post, build, some piece of content, but that is on brand. So it actually helped us double down on our own brand design. Other examples are where, we're really working to say, okay, how do we think about how we incentivize people to do that, right? So I think there's a lot of different things that you can do within an organization, and you kind of have to leave no stone unturned. I mean, I think about it, a great example, and Natalie and I both worked at Meta in the past, and back in 2012, we were going through the mobile transformation. We were not a mobile-first company. We proclaimed internally that we needed to be, and I watched every piece of that organization be a part of that transformation, from HR, saying like, how do we train people? How do we incentivize people? To engineering, they had to train up whole new teams on engineering for mobile. And we had analytics teams who had to think about that. And every single part of the organization was a part of that transformation. And I think we are at a moment like that again in the industry, where we can't just think about it within the marketing org or within the product org. We have to think about it across the entire organization.
Yeah, I agree. We call it writer on writer. You call it customer zero. But yeah, we have our HR teams with agentic workflows getting offers out faster. We have our legal team doing legal reviews with the software. And so that's the same approach that we've had to take as well, as looking at the different lines of business and thinking about how do we do this as a way to scale and drive that consensus across the board. I guess, Shawn, in terms of for your department, I mean, how are you thinking about the change management and leaning into the new functionality? What has that been like for you?
I think it's similar to what I was touching on before. Like, it allows us to expand our creative iteration and thinking. I think what it hasn't changed, if I may, is the type of people we go after and the type of individuals we look for. I think if you start to go find people who are just really good at prompting and really good at AI elements, you sort of lost a bit of that, again, that weird thinker, that craft monster in it all. So I think from a people perspective, you still want those still wildly creative people there. And as we sort of, your customer zero, we might be customer 0.11 or something. Because we are implementing all the products between Workfront and Firefly. It does take a bit of teaching. It does take a bit of a learning, but it also comes like Heather was saying, like it does come from the top down. Like if your bosses or as a creative leader, if you're not excited about the change, then how can you ever expect your people to be? So you need to find the opportunities within there. And there's a lot to be excited about. It's not like a fake excitement by any means, but you do have to, motivate people to want to use it, because if I'm being frank, creative people can be stuck in their process sometimes.
I think that's all people.
Yeah. There's a way you found success finding ideas, and that makes sense. That's a comfortable space. We still have our directors and designers who like to comp things in Photoshop and do it old school, and they're like, "What do you mean generative expand? I can just paint this thing like this." Like I've always thought, it's like, no, but it's gonna save you so much time. And it's really just about giving them that perspective to be like, your job is to come up with brilliant ideas and to or to break the internet, or to come up with stories that connect with human beings. If the tools can help you get to those things faster, why do you want to spend more time doing the stuff that you are not more passionate about? Spend your time doing all the things that you really, really care about, coming up with those ideas and writing those stories, crafting all the details and nerding out about art. So I think once you start to position it like that, and once you start to actually peel back the curtain of the opportunity that it unlocks for your creatives, everyone starts to see it and they're like, oh yeah, that is a much better way to do that. We should definitely do it that way.
How does that experience of you, being that customer 1.1 or whatever you called it, how does that translate into when you're working on the creative for these products, that personal experience? How does that translate?
Oh yeah, it's interesting because you kind of want there's an urge to have the creative reflect the process sometimes. Like you're like, okay, we have to make a whole lot of materials for an event coming up really fast. The advertising is sort of promising that you can make a whole lot of materials for an event coming up really fast. So how can you actually make the medium the message in some cases, and prove out that, and almost case study it out that, like, look, we did all of this stuff using generative tools, using Adobe tools. We did it in record time, and I think it was last year's summit. You might have been on stage talking about, like, we made all the materials for this event in a few weeks, which would have taken a few months previously. So, like, being your own case study is sort of a way to go about the advertising in itself.
Couldn't agree more. And why is it they always come up so quickly that we have to meet these deadlines? All right, well, we're just wrapping up here, and I always like to leave with something punchy. So what's one piece of advice you would give the audience if you're rolling out something new to your team or adopting some of these new change management aspects?
I mean, I would say, going back to a point I made before, is just preaching that growth mindset. That it's so funny. My kids learn this in school all the time. Like, hey, if you fail, that just makes you grow more, right? Like, that teaches you to stretch and get better. And so I think we're at this moment of transformation where the more we can just preach to our teams, try new things, see where this works into your workflow, see where this works in how you get things done, and they'll start to feel that ownership and that excitement about what this is going to do for them and their careers and for them and their work.
Love it.
I love that. I'll piggyback off it. Like, fail faster and fail often too.
Yeah.
Like the more you iterate, the more not even like the more ideas you can get to, the faster you get to the better idea, the thing that solves the problem. Anybody who's creative knows, like, the fear of the blank page and that intimidation that comes with that. And you need to kind of put that aside as a creator and just start making stuff. I think the tools that Adobe's innovating on allow you to do that much faster and quicker. And then second, I'll go back to my other point before, like, don't start to change the type of humans that you bring into the fold. Like, you don't want necessarily a bunch of people who are going to be really good at prompting and really good at training in AI, as much as you want the free thinkers, the people who, again, are going to go off brief, the people who love the craft of it all, and teach those people how to use the innovation. So teach those people how to use the product, because that will unlock so much more diversity in your thinking. It'll unlock so much more, weird thinking, people do crafted work, and you'll find yourself in a place where you can do more of that faster.
I love it. Well, thank you all for our session today, and thank you to our panelists. I think that was fantastic.